Everyone, Christian Ludemann here, and in this video I want to talk about how to screen for efficient Angular developers when you are screening for new candidates. So there's a lot of different approaches to this which are really inefficient, such as having the coding interview focusing heavily on, or the interview focusing heavily on how to like random coding questions, sometimes even that doesn't something that doesn't even have anything to do with the job that the candidate is being screened for. You want to avoid that, and basically the best way to know if someone is going to be good at the future job is if they are good at some task that resembles the job on a small scale. So with Angular development, it usually is about creating CRUD applications. That is how you're going to spend like 90% of your time just building regular CRUD applications, and you want to be efficient with that, and you want to do it according to best practices. So what I like to do is I want to tell the candidate to build an to-do list application with Angular, and I'm going to set 1 hour aside for it, and I'm going to tell them to explain the thoughts and apply best practices as they go through. So I will demonstrate this myself now and try to do this exercise so you can see like how you should think about building such a pretty simple application, but it applies to a lot of other work you will be doing with Angular development. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to do is you'll have things set up with engineer and then some name, and then I'm going to open up in VS Code. That's what I already did here. Let's get started building the application. We see this is the starter look, which we can start with, and we want to just get rid of all that stuff and build it as we like it. So we save here, and we see it's refreshing, and it's all gone. So if you set up some routing here, which is not really that necessary because there's only going to be one route in this application, but maybe for best practice and such, we could set up some routing here as well. So we will have the the route here, which is going to be the to-do list. So I'm going to generate Angular module. It's gonna actually just take this one, and I'm gonna call it to-do list. And boom, we got a to-do list there. So for page components, I like to have that as a module, and everything else that are not pages. So I would like to have that as just components that are included in others modules. So the general rule of thumb I like to use is for every smart component, there should be a module, because smart components contain external dependencies which are handled in the modules. So we have this thing, and that is something we want to lazy load from here. So we're going to have a route. It's going to be, we already got this, so it's going to be a path. It's going to be like the empty path, but this is our initial route. And it's going to be a load children, and we're going to do the load import, and we're going to import this to-do list / list module, and then it's going to be like that then, and then we're going to take the module here, and boom, it's going to be loaded like that. And then this is going to be like some fairly straightforward UI. So you can do that as well, so we can debug as we go along. Yeah, we got this, and the routing is set up here. Boom, route setting up here. We're gonna have this, and this we're going to just run to be the router outlet, so you can render the route here. And just to make, sometimes you need to kick it and restart this one. this is doing an import loading this, and this is not showing right here, so we're doing load children, and that what I'm missing here is I need this is loading here, and this. So I need to create a route for I need to make a route for this, so I can just generate like that. So it's gonna be to-do list dot let's convention routing dot yes. So then it's gonna be like routing. I'm using the Angular snippets from VS Code, which is making this a lot easier to generate. So routes. I think I want to use some routes for yeah, this I can just write it out myself. So it's going to be like that, and then it's going to be path nothing, and then the component is going to be this component that you got here called to-do list component, and it's going to be exporting a router module. It's going to be like how is it router? You see here it's like router module, but kind of like that. Routing module, and like that, and that's going to be for children. And I need to fix some imports here as well. For child, it's called. I put this in there, I put this, and I import this here. And now it's rendered here. So that's set up. That's the smart component and the page component. The page component set up here with lazy loading. Here we are. We got the to-do list page set up here, and we want to set up some basic page for actually showing the to-do list. So first of all, we will have a heading here. Be like, and you could say welcome to to-do list or something like that. And this is something we want to center later. I'm just going to add some classes for it. We're going to style it all later, doing the styling separately. Then you're going to have the actual list, and probably the most nice way to do a list is to do it with the semantic way, doing a list like this. And we're going to have some list items, which are going to be a for list. So to begin with, I will just hard code a list here, which is going to be the to-do list, and then it's going to be that. Because we want typing, we want to create an interface for the to-do items. So this kind of stuff is probably something we want to have located in a shared place. There's probably going to be some shared model. So for this, I would create a new folder called shared. So in an Angular app, there'll be the shared folder, and there'll be core folder normally. And inside of here, we could have a to-do item.ts. It's going to be like an interface called to-do item, and it's going to have an ID, so we can identify the to-do item. It's going to have like a name, and it's going to have a completed boolean called is completed. And there could be some other properties, major properties like date created and stuff, but that's not really relevant for this demonstration here. So it's going to be to-do list that, and it's going to be the array of this. So to begin with, let's just create two items. So it's going to have ID1. It's going to have the name buy milk, and then that's gonna be is completed false. And then we might have another item, which is item 2. It's gonna be like buy sugar, and that's gonna be completed. And then this is gonna go here, and we're gonna have like an ng4. I think I can just autocomplete this. With the track by and all. So to-do list, to-do items rather, probably the better name. And then there's gonna be this track by function, which can also be like a track by function we delegate to the TypeScript component class here. So it's gonna take the name here. So basically here there's gonna be like a span of the name, and there's gonna be some checkbox down the way. It's gonna be like some input checkbox. It's gonna be of type checkbox. It's gonna have a value equal to item dot is completed. So I need to change to this. Now it's include. It's like that. Let's see, there's something with the template that is not alright here. It might be track by part. Yeah, and I'll just fix the. So this I might as well just make this simple and do ng model here, which requires me to have the forms module. In real apps, reactive module is reactive forms is a way to go, but for the demo app this is sufficient. And this is the way with the less code. But normally if you get into like a whole reactive data flow, then reactive forms module would be the way to go. And obviously it's working here. Got this binded. And we just need we want the track by still, even though it's pretty simple, this app by now. We want this performance optimization. So we will just have the track by function here, which is kind of, I don't know if we have any interface for it, but it's gonna be like, I don't know, do we have any track by? Yeah, it's track by function. So how does that look? It extends index and item. It's gonna be a to-do item. Maybe it's because the track, this one needs some kind of typing. Oh, that's because the return to do like this. So this is an interface that is extending off. Yeah, anyways, it should, ideally there'll be typing on this one. Track by function. Yeah, I think if I extract all this then to a function variable, I could set it like that. But anyways, And then we're just gonna have this being tracked by, we could just do by index, but ideally we want tracked by the ID. Okay. So that's gonna make sure that we don't unnecessarily re-render. All right. We render the list when we interact with it. So normally you should use a track by function whenever you are dealing with interactive lists like this to-do list. Let's see, boom, boom. It's not pretty for sure, but it's functional. Yeah, we can do the styling later. So this is gonna be the to-do list. Just center this a bit and create some styling, but so to-do list, and then we go to styles here. So we have the to-do list, and probably for the whole page here we'll have do display flex. And that starts to center things, and flex direction is row. We want to center things, so justify content center, and then so it's column here. It's align items center. Right, so now we got this centered a bit. We got the to-do list here. Probably could look nicer with. So let's see if we just took this and give it like. What can we do? Like a big. Square look. Anyways, let's focus on functionality for the focus on the Angular part here. So yeah, the next step is we need to have some way to store the data, and for this we would normally have like a service correlated to this. So if you look at the architecture side, now this is a pretty simple application, but later on you might have some, if you for example follow the big NX monorepo structure, you might have some separation between the feature libraries, which is where the smart component lies, and the whole page setup, and then the data services. But for now, since this is with good correlation to the data here, it's let's just create a service for to-do list service. We got this here, and that's going to return this one. And then, ideally, this should be an HTTP request returning all this. But to make it more like a real Angular scenario, this is going to be an observable. So it's going to be of this, Max.js. It's going to be observable of and then just change the convention to the Finnish annotation. And yeah, it's going to be like a data service now. And we're going to inject that service here. This is already provided in root, so it's free for grabs. And we got that one here, and it's going to be like to items like that, and we might just set those here. To items equals list.to list service.to items, and then this is just the to observable to do item. And let's see, boom, this is observable to do item. Oh yeah, we get some problem with the strict mode here. So what we can do instead is we can either ignore it, since this can doesn't know about this. Either you can do like this and like tell the compiler that this is gonna be you to ignore the strict mode thing here, or we could set it directly and as we initialize it here, or we could give it some empty initial value. But I'm just gonna do this here, and then you go here, and this is gonna be with the async pipe now. So we see the same thing, right? And the architecture we're gonna have now is the to-do list service is kind of gonna be the facade for all the interaction with the data here. So we're just gonna create different methods that we're gonna implement and do with UI. So some of them are gonna be complete to-do item, and that's gonna be some to-do item ID, and then we're gonna do the magic to do that. And there's gonna be one for delete to-do item, and same thing, to do item ID string. And that's gonna be, actually I want this to be a behavior subject, so I can do some more stuff with it. Then I want probably I want this to be separated. So this is the actual data that comes from yeah, it shouldn't really tell it. It's a subject. It should be in the variable name. This is the private part of it. That, and then this is going to be to observable as something with the typing here, so we can do as observable, and we can convert it to a regular observable, and we have the writing encapsulated here with a private variable. So that's basically what we want, delete, and of course create to do items. So all of this is pretty isolated here. We could easily write some unit tests for this and make sure this was working as intended. We can also do an edit. Let's do it for another time. So this is basically the cut operations and the edit later. So that later on. Update. So let's create a new to-do item. So it's going to be a to-do item, and it's going to come in here. That's going to be added to the list here. So basically, it's going to be like to-do items, and we're going to get the values here. And then we're going to just add the values to the new item at the end. So that's going to be do items dot next, and then we're gonna use a spread operator to take the existing stuff and include the new to do item. Let me just implement all of these. They're fairly simple. So for deleting, it's about, so this is basically, we take the items here, we find the one we want to remove, and we're going to want to do this in a declarative way, using the just yeah, we're just gonna map over them and complete the one. Also, we could use imma here, which is gonna be an easier way to do immutable stuff. So we're just gonna make a clone of all of this, and we could just find. Nah, let's just do it in the pure map. Let's do it with map. It's gonna be the updated to do items after we take this to do items and we map through them. And find the one that matches this ID here. And we just toggle whatever state. So it's going to be basically, it's going to be like, if this matches, then it's the do item that ID is toggled. Sorry, is completed. It's toggled. And then we return it. Otherwise, return. And then this is what gets updated as this two items. Next, and guys, yeah. And for delete, it's kind of the same thing. You can copy all this. So this is going to be a filter instead, and we're going to filter out if it's not this item, then we're going to basically it's just going to be the whole filter. So it's going to be the filter function, and it's going to have some updated. So if it doesn't contain this, we'll have it. And then this is kind of like this one, the update. Because when we find this one, we want to update the, want to set the new value. So update, we probably want whatever this has. Maybe just I think just the name here. So we find this one, we set the name to the name here. Alright guys, now we have all of the functionality, the logic in place here. So now we can actually start using this to finish the CRUD operations of the app here. So let's create a form so we can create some more to-do items. So underneath this, we will create the form. So we have a to-do list here, and we will create the form. So it will be a div like this, div dot add to do, maybe to do form, and then inside of here we can have form with input, which is gonna take the to do item text. So we can just do a ng model here, even though that reactive forms would be like a more best practice way to do it, because it's gonna align more with a reactive architecture, which is normally what you want, especially as Angular apps become more complicated. just gonna go with ng model here, and that's gonna bind to the do item text. It's gonna be some string, and we need to add the forms module to make this work. We already got that, so it's connected here, and we should do some button here that can like show that this can be added. So we do a button here, we make it plus, and we add some styling to make it look nicer. There's no initialize, it says. I'll just initialize it with whatever. Okay. Now we have this, okay. And we'll add some styling to it here. It's going to be the to-do form. Going to use some display flex here. Gonna look like this, and we can adjust the size of the to-do form, to-do input. We're gonna nest that in here, so the structure of the styling follows the structure of the DOM, which I think makes it easier to navigate around. Also, we get like less chance of mismatching between the if colliding classes. So we can make width here like 200 pixels. Maybe just in total, this set there. That's like 200 pixels. See how that turns out. Play around with the styling here, how can it look, and increase this one. So we set the width here to like pixels. That would be what we want. Let's fill this one. That's 25 with 500 pixels. And maybe like, I don't know, like 200 pixels be good enough here. Did I save this to do item inside? Yeah, right. That's about right. And probably want to get rid of these. These are called on the to-do list. Rotation. The dots here. Just getting rid of the dots using list style type. And we can also make it also like with 200 pixels. There's some centering going on, which is okay. And we can do some display flex as well here. And then just do flex direction and make it column. And we can probably add some for each of the items here. We might want to add some margin button of, could be like 12 pixels. By the way, all these sizes here, all these magic numbers, in a real app you want to have this in a schema, so you can just reference these sizes. That makes it easier to like follow a specific pattern that looks consistent around the app. Same goes with colors. You want to reference colors instead of hard coding hex values all over the application. I'm just going to make sure this is all aligned, and I'm going to add the plus to the end. So in here we have the input, so at the class here it's going to be. Also, it's better to reference a class instead of using the element name, as it's more minimized. Both it gives more meaning to the styling name here. Also, it's minimized the possibility of clashes if you have another li item, so it just makes it more readable and more future proof. So it's going to be to do item. And also you might want to extract the to-do item into a component so it's more reusable. We might do that later. So like that, and then we have inside the to-do item, we have we call that to-do item checkbox. I just checkbox because we're already nesting it, so it cannot clash. And we might do, so at the item we might do display flags and justify the content with space between. Just make sure to save all this stuff. So now it kind of looks more how we want it to look. Maybe we want to get rid of this, so it comes from the space between, and we can get some. Also, we might get rid of the padding. There's some padding built in these list items. Just get rid of them by doing padding 0 on the item here. Let's see. Well, alright, I'm just gonna keep it like this for now. And we have these items here. So when we type this in, we want to add a new item. So it's basically gonna be some new method here. We click on the button, should trigger like add item, then item text. That's gonna use our service. Create to the item. Add, I'll probably rename to add to the item just to make it consistent. I'm gonna take the item text or whatever it takes the whole to do item. I think it just needs to take the text in here. Then it will add this, and then this will be like the and this going to be rather text item here, and we'll probably generate some ID. Where the ID might be new date. You just take some date timestamp. But like date get to C. It's a string. And then it's completed. It's I'll just do date now, and gets a number, and yeah, to string it. Should be unique enough. We have some problem. This needs to be the text of that. Item. Right there, nothing happens because it's not hooked up in the code yet. So when we click here, it should now but it's not showing here. So you get to add the item here with the item text. Let's see, add item, you get the item text here. Let's see what's coming through here. We add the new item, we get the item text, it's still empty here, so it's like this is not really synchronizing when we type in here item text. Item text. Input. Either the name attribute set or the form control must be defined as dynamo. Okay, so I'll just set a form name. Name for this will be through input as well. That's how it is, and then we can do this, and now we should see this come through there, and it's added like that. All right. So that was the add logic we got there, and we can do some delete as well. So we might do the when we want to do a delete button, which we can do as let's extract this thing now to another component. So I have some tools here. Basically, it's just use Angular CLI generate this. So it'll be to do item, add that here, and that's basically gonna contain. Basically, it's just gonna contain the whatever this is containing, and the styling we have here. It's gonna for this is gonna just be moved to here, and we're gonna use the host to add it here. And now this is after I add, so it's gonna be app to do item. Gonna add this one to the smart components module. And then it's added here, so we can reference it from here, and we can say instead of all of this stuff, we just iterate through the app to do item. And copy this stuff to here. And this goes away. And basically, it's just gonna pass the do item down here. This is gonna have an item here. It's an input. It'll be the to do item input. And here we can, so we're gonna get this item inside of here, and it's just displayed like that. basically this to-do list should just be a div instead. See how it looks. It's about the same. Now you can see it's do item, so we got this better encapsulated, which just makes it more maintainable. You want to break up your architecture in smart and dumb components like this. And then we might create a button here for delete, which might be like an X, and might have some like delete button. Just the use case name, delete. And we might create the click handler, be like on delete. And then just take this, so on delete. And that should trigger the delete event here. It's going to be an output called delete. And it's going to be a new event emitter with the item ID that's deleted. So we're just gonna emit as the smallest amount of information we need. So that's just, let's see what's going on here. Event emitter, because I took the wrong one. Need to get it one from Angular. And then let's go to string. And delete is going to be this item.id. So we can delete now, and we can also lay down, we will need the edit functionality, which is going to be like edit, and then same, the ID, it's going to be for edit. And then we might show it in the form and we can update stuff, maybe on edit. Or maybe just to keep it simple, let's just skip the edit for now. Just only the delete. To this, and so when we click this, we want the event handler to be handled here. We have delete, and then on delete, this will take using the $event, we'll take the parameter, which is the item ID. And on, just for consistency, we might call this on add item. I like to follow this kind of convention for event handlers. It just makes it more conventional, and you can differentiate between the events, for example, the output here, and the event handlers. So this is going to be the item ID, which is a string, and we want to delete it. So we use service here. You see, when you have this facade in place, it becomes quite easy to do all these operations. You don't really need to think about it later. You can split your thinking in two different modes, like the UI mode when you're working with the components and the UI, and then there's the logic and mode where you are inside of here. Like that, and we can see we can delete it now. And I think the final thing you probably want to demonstrate in such a coding test here is that you can also write some tests. So let's see if this is set up with how this test is set up here. It's set up like this. Okay, so yeah, we should write some unit tests for these. This is the most important logic to test here. If you don't go for the yeah, you can test these in isolation, or you can use something like Cypress and test this with Cypress data, which is probably going to be a bit of bang for the buck with such a test.